You can learn anything. You can go out there and look for these experiences, and they can change your life, as they did with me. Mental illness is on the rise in the youth of our community. It has been this way for the last 10 years, but even more so in the last 2 years. The idea of this fundraiser was to climb all 5 volcanoes in under 5 weeks to raise at least $10,000 that would then be donated to the 5 nonprofit organizations of my choosing that I believed were central in addressing this issue in our community. Mount Baker was the first of 5 and was the one I was in some ways most worried about. It was by far the biggest mountain I've ever climbed. I remember getting in the car in the early mornings of Friday, May 22nd with Lev and driving up to Bellingham, and we both kind of didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into. But we met with the rest of our group at the trailhead. There were 7 of us in total, and put on our heavy 50-pound packs and started hiking. It took us about 3 or 4 hours to get to our base camp, and those must have been, some of the most grueling 3 or 4 hours that I've ever had on any mountain before. And the day we arrived, it was clear skies and absolutely beautiful, great temperature, and an awesome day to be on the mountain. There was some question about whether or not we were going to try to make a summit push the very next morning or wait another day and do it the morning after that. And it wasn't clear until just a couple hours before we went to bed. The clouds started coming in and the wind started picking up as well, and we decided to wait.
There's going to be 0 visibility, so no views from
We'll
the
see.
summit.
We might get lucky.
Or it might be pouring snow and rain.
Yeah, let's hope for the best.
Yep.
Stay tuned. Okay, 11 o'clock at night, yes.
I don't know.
We got a
Maybe I'm tripping.
leave time at
Midnight.
midnight. After midnight, we set off. We had all our gear ready, our crampons on, our ropes tied, our safety equipment on, and in the dead of night, we started hiking up the Coleman Glacier. And we were waiting for daybreak to give us some lights and make sure that we were going in the right direction. We were taking it slow, and the snow started coming down quite heavily, and the winds definitely picked up quite significantly at one point, I remember. And I thought to myself, well, this doesn't look too good. I wonder, how far we're gonna be able to make it. And eventually, we made it past the big crevasses on the very top of Coleman Glacier, where it meets with the Deming Glacier. Oh my God. We got to that flat bit and we regrouped and we talked to each other and assessed our options and kind of evaluated the situation and decided that given the circumstances, the high winds, the crevasse, we decided that it was best that we turn around at that point.
Hello, I am Leah and I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager for Not Me Seattle. Here at Nambi Seattle, we are committed to supporting and empowering those that live with mental illness, as well as their family and friends that support them. Why is it important for people to create events around mental health? Well, it's about raising awareness, right? Ending the stigma, and also pointing people to places where they can get help, where they are accepted, where they're in a safe space, where they can talk about what they are going through and then get the help that they need. And thirdly, with the funds that we will be receiving from the fundraising aspect of this, we'll be able to put that into programs that reach out to youth and to help end that stigma and to encourage them to reach out for help, and most importantly, recognize what the symptoms are and that they are not alone.
How's it going?
You ready to go, bro?
I'm ready, let's do it.
All right, let's go. The very next climb was Mount St. Helens, which is located, as you probably know, in the southern region of Washington State, and is an active volcano with its most recent eruption, I think in 1980, where it completely blew off the north side of the mountain. How are you feeling, Mike?
I'm excited. I've been looking forward to it for the last month, and we're finally here. We're doing it.
We're ready.
Standing out, calling all the people here to see the show, calling for my demons not to let me go. I need
It's gonna be a long day tomorrow. We gotta hike up all the way up to the top of Mount St. Helens. Take us maybe 6 or 7 hours, ski down, and drive all the way to Adams, and do half of that mountain.
I'm just looking forward to the coffee in the morning.
Yeah. So the very next morning, we headed up the mountain just before sunrise, and we started off quick and through the forest below, and then eventually made it above tree line, and then hit snow, where we put on our skis and started skinning up the mountain. So we took the skis off and put on the crampons instead, and continued that way. It was a beautiful morning. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was a fantastic experience. We made it up to the very top in about 4 or 5 hours. And I remember, just thinking to myself that how amazing it was to have an experience like that. So we eventually made it up to the crater rim, and you could see northward into the crater, and you could see down into the vents that were still steaming, and you could see Mount Rainier in the distance, Mount Adams to our east. You could even see Mount Baker all the way up north, and also Glacier Peak. So in one moment, I was able to see all 5 volcanoes that I would be climbing in that month.
Hi, my name is Marissa Bauer, and I'm the Events and Marketing Manager here at Outdoors for All. Mental illness is extremely important and affects everyone. Most people have experienced mental illness either personally and or through the eyes of a loved one, and it's typically a very delicate situation. Climbing for Youth is a great cause and aligns directly with our mission. If this last year has taught us anything, it's the importance of mental, physical, and emotional well-being. We were so happy to be a part of this project and proud to share a fundraiser benefiting such an important need in this world.
I found a solid campground with a nice site. Put up my tent. Right up there is Mount Adams. Mount Adams was in some ways the mountain that I was most excited about climbing due to the fact that I'd never been there before. I've only set my eyes on Mount Adams just a few times before. It looked big, it looked intimidating. It was about 3 or 4 hours of hard climbing before we reached lunch counter, which is typically where most climbers set up their tent and spend the night. We were doing the whole climb in one day. You could really start to feel the altitude sickness kick in. The atmosphere is quite thin up there and you have substantially less oxygen to breathe in the further up the mountain you go. And eventually we made it up to the falls summit and crossed a flat section, went up another little hill or another little slope and made it to the true summit at about 12,500 feet.
My name is Keon Almasi. I am the General Manager for Quality Auto Center in Lynnwood, Washington. Mental health to me is a person's ability to cope with the day-to-day activities of life. When Michael proposed the idea to me and asked if I was willing to be a part of his journey, and I was super excited to say yes. I can't say I was surprised that Michael was pursuing this. I know both of the things he's kind of brought together. I guess mental health and climbing are both two things he's pretty passionate about. And mental health is a challenge, and it's something that you have to overcome on a day-to-day basis. And then when you bring climbing into it, it's also literally overcoming obstacles and powering through and trying to achieve goals.
Being the most remote volcano in all of Washington, I knew that Glacier Peak was going to be by far the hardest mountain I would be climbing. So with a slight sense of apprehension and a bit of nervousness, we started off our climb not really knowing what we were getting ourselves into. How you doing, Fabian?
Doing great. Love traverses.
We were excited to get going, and we left. I had my crampons on, and Fabian and Ashley had their skis on, and we slowly made our way to the bottom of Glacier Peak Mountain. The day went on, we made good but slow progress. We were still quite exhausted from the day before, and there was another 6 or 7 miles to the peak and another 5,000 or 6,000 feet of elevation gain. As we started to get closer to the base of the mountain, the clouds started coming in, and we had a little bit of precipitation as well as some higher winds. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, well, this is the weather that the forecast had seen. Okay, I'm ready. So we continued up the mountain and reached a break point. I remember looking at the mountain at that point and seeing this very steep section towards the top near the summit, where it was about maybe a 45-50 degree angle slope and loose rock. The snow was questionable for avalanche risk, and I was thinking to myself, that's what we're going up? And Fabian said, yep, that's what we're going up.
I can see the place where we got the water. It's right on that slope.
And so we continued up the mountain, and by that time we were maybe 7 or 8 hours into our climb that day. I was still exhausted from the day before. I was sweating a lot, losing a lot of water. Not drinking enough, not eating enough. I felt dehydrated. I felt not really entirely myself. And that's really when exhaustion started to kick in. And at a certain point, my footholds were not holding. I kept on slipping and having to brace myself with my arms. The clouds started to come in more so. The precipitation picked up. The visibility was nearly zero. I couldn't even see my climbing partners 50 feet in front of me, above me on the slope, and vertigo started to settle in. And I froze. I had a mental block. My reptilian brain completely took over, and I was unable to go any further at that point. I thought to myself that it was not safe. I didn't want to be there in that moment. All I wanted to do was get off that mountain safely and as fast as possible. And so I yelled up to Fabian and Ashley, trying to get their attention. Even though I couldn't see them at that time, and eventually I heard back from them, and I told them that I couldn't go any further and that they would need to come down. It was time to turn back. The weather had gone too bad, and they were going to put on their skis and come meet me where I was. So I stood there in that position, panicking almost for about 45 minutes or so. was not easy. But eventually we made it off the mountain, and I remember feeling a few waves of relief going down the mountain. One was when we got below snow line and finally took off our skis, and that's when I said to myself, well, I'm going to make it down this mountain. It was a very unique experience, and there were moments in that experience where I asked myself, like, why do I decide to do these things? Why do I choose to put my body and mind through so much suffering and pain just to have these experiences? And I asked this question to Fabian, and he said, maybe it's precisely because nobody else or very few other people are able to do things like this.
It's kind of weird. In moments like these, you ask yourself, why am I here? Why do I decide to torture myself 12 miles up a mountain with blisters, pain, just fatigue, to stay in a tent that is probably about 25 degrees right now. Every once in a while, we get lucky and we have a moment that will stick with us for the rest of our life. And I think that I'll look back on these moments and say, wow, I had the opportunity to be a part of something much larger than myself. My surroundings, my environment, the nature around me. I get to experience this like few others do. And that is a unique experience.